Right, for writers, the new iPhone 16e is now the iPhone to buy, with certain caveats. Actually, maybe most of all, including how at the time of recording, I don't have one, neither do you, neither does anyone really outside of Apple. So there are certain things that just won't be known for a week or two, about 8 days. But still, this new iPhone is rather special. Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers like you and me who use, new write, well, on Macs and iPads, but also on iPhones. Do subscribe or support 58 Keys on Patreon, or find that like button wherever that's put, because there is so much to talk about, especially since all we can do really is talk. Because right now you can order the new iPhone 16e starting, as I record this, tomorrow, Friday, February 21. But it's not going to start actually arriving in people's hands until February 28, which actually is also the date when it will be in Apple stores if you want to go check it out before you buy, which would be a good idea. But now, I come to praise this new iPhone. But there are, of course, things that it can't do or that it doesn't have, because otherwise Apple would scrap the rest of the lineup. It's going to be up to you whether these omissions, is that the word, whether they matter. And I'll tell you actually right now, as impressed as I am with the iPhone 16e, I am not going to even consider switching to it from my iPhone 16 Pro Max. Actually, tell you what, let's do this right now. If you don't have an iPhone at all, then the iPhone 16e is excellent. So at least think about it. If you have any of these iPhones, don't get an iPhone 16e. So that would be the iPhone 15 Pro or the iPhone 15 Pro Max, the iPhone 16 Pro, or like me, the iPhone 16 Pro Max, but also the iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Plus. You can make a case actually against buying the new iPhone if you have a regular iPhone 15 too, or even really the iPhone 14, because in so many ways the 2025 iPhone 16e is the 2022 iPhone 14, except the new one includes Apple Intelligence, and that is not to be ignored. So that's everyone who shouldn't buy the iPhone 16. I mean, assuming you can afford it. Here's who probably, definitely, maybe should. So as I say, if you don't have any iPhone at all, well, just, off you pop. This is for you. If your iPhone does not have Apple Intelligence, so it's not one of those that I just mentioned, well, this new iPhone, it's good. Okay. Forgetting Apple Intelligence. Okay. Just writers who have had their iPhone since 2020 or even earlier should definitely look at the new one, because for them, the speed, just the whole speed of the phone will be really noticeable. I mean, it's not like I care about speed per se, but I care about what it gives us, which is a responsiveness. Everything just does what you need. You press a button and it happens, right away. Except the action button, actually, but that's a thing, yeah. Let's look at what you get with the iPhone 16e, and therefore what I think is great about it, and then, of course, what you don't get, and whether that matters to you or not. Here's what you get from the iPhone 16e that would be worth it for you and me as writers. Overall, I think an overall thing is that it's just nowhere near as much a cut down, compromised iPhone as the iPhone SE, which it replaces. Plus, it's fast. Actually, officially there is a fractional difference between the processor in this and in the next one up, the iPhone 16, but it's unlikely to be noticeable. So instead of the iPhone SE being an older, slower processor, basically chucked into the SE because Apple had some left over somewhere, you instead get one of the latest, one of the fastest processors. It also has a very good screen, much better in size and actually in just image quality than the old iPhone SE. Again, there is a fractional difference between its screen and the one on the iPhone 16, the next one up, but it's still 6.1 inches diagonally, and I doubt that you'd spot the difference between them even if you had the two phones side by side, and actually I'm certain that I wouldn't. That screen, though, it also takes up the whole of the front of the iPhone. The home button is gone. And actually, if you're used to a home button on the SE or previous models, the lack of it can seem like a disadvantage, but no, grief, no. it is shocking how fast you get used to not having a home button, and how instantly a home button seems a bit, prehistoric, really. The screen, as part of all this, also includes Face ID. It unlocks because of your mug there, and you can buy things using your face, in your bank account. But you know what I mean. It's the security aspect. It is you. It will pay you. Opposite of the screen, kind of cameras. The cameras on the iPhone 16e are good. They're again better than on the iPhone SE. But you and I will need to come back to in this for a moment. Although actually, one example of a good thing. Okay, the front-facing camera, the selfie camera, which is actually the one I use to make videos like this. It's apparently as good on the iPhone 16e as it is on all of the iPhone 16 models, including the one I'm using to film you now. The iPhone 16e also has what appears to be, and until we actually try it in real life, great battery life. Apple says it will run for 26 hours playing back video continually, which is probably the most battery intensive thing you can do unless you're downloading the video to stream it. As a writer, you would of course never spend your time in your battery just watching videos or just playing games. No. What you might not expect to do, but actually I think you will once you have this feature, is use visual intelligence. I was doing this thing. I had to take a photo of my electricity meter for a reason. And do you know, when you have an idea for a story, I must have had one then, because instead of taking a photo, I left my finger on the button slightly too long. And then I looked at the screen, and instead of a photograph, it's got a nice note on there explaining to me in quite a lot of detail what an electricity meter was. Since then, I've sat in restaurants and asked visual intelligence to identify the building. What's that tower across the road from me? I've asked it to look up things. Well, actually, there's a camera thing I wanted to buy, and I didn't know what it was called. So searching was a bit tough, but click, visual intelligence, off we went. Got it wrong the first few times, but there you go. Visual intelligence also now, as Apple shows you, lets you photograph an event poster and automatically add all of the date and time and details like that to your calendar. Just fantastic. Visual intelligence is fantastic. And here it is now in even the cheapest of the iPhones. Although on this cheapest iPhone, you get visual intelligence by using the action button. On the others, all of the others that have this at all, it's part of a separate camera control button on the side. I think putting it under the action button is actually mostly a good idea. It might even be a better idea than the camera control on the side. But this does take us into what's not so good about the iPhone 16e. What you're missing out on, well, I think you're missing out on by not buying one of the, frankly, more expensive models. Yeah, no, it also takes us into a tiny bit of a rant about the action button. On this new iPhone and all others since it was ever introduced a couple of years ago, now the action button replaces the old mute switch. It can actually be a mute switch if you want. You can set it, say, no, mute switch please. But the thing is that this is an action button, action singular. One action, your choice of what that is. And that choice now includes having visual intelligence. The short version is, actually, if you don't just entirely ignore the action button, you are probably going to end up fiddling and you'll have it run a shortcut. That's most likely, I think. I mean, actually, for example, here's mine. I press the action button on my iPhone, it runs a shortcut that I wrote, and it gives me this menu of choices that I chose, and I pick the one I want. I mean, I tend to only use the top few, and they launch certain documents or a particular app that I use a lot, and yeah, that's fine. But still, rant state. I just said you press the action button, but no, you don't. You press and you hold it. Unless you press and hold and you wait long enough that you start thinking this must be an inaction button, it doesn't do anything. Yet it so very definitely could, because if you don't press it for long enough, the button tells you to press it for long enough. So the short press is registered. Why that isn't enough to get it to do anything, I do not know. I'm pipe dream here, but I'm kind of hoping that when the iPhone 16e is out in people's hands, we'll find that the button has changed so that a press does something and a press and hold does something else, like bringing up visual intelligence. That would, I think, would clearly be better, but it would also fit actually with how the newer camera control button does different things depending on how long you press it. Actually, to be fair, it would also fit how I seem to be the only person who's still grumbling about the action button. And there are other issues that are more limiting in the iPhone 16e. Starting by going back to the camera. I said it was good, but I am no photographer. I understand, I mean, I can grasp that the one camera in the iPhone 16e is more limited than the two in the iPhone 16, very much more limited than the three that you get in the iPhone 16 Pro. But I just tend to point and shoot. So don't listen to me about cameras. I don't know enough. I do know that while I'm still getting used to the camera control button that's on my iPhone 16 Pro Max, I keep forgetting it's there and how long you press, how you not. I like it enough now that I would miss it. So camera control is this button on the side of all iPhone 16 models except the new iPhone 16e. You press it quickly to open the camera. You hold it down to get visual intelligence, fine. And then with the camera open on all these other models, you can also make adjustments, color adjustments, zoom in and out adjustments. iPhone 16e has none of that. Next, no MagSafe. You'll probably have heard of MagSafe if you've already got it, but you probably won't if you haven't. So let me very quickly explain that MagSafe is great. Okay. This is how I charge my iPhone using MagSafe. I pop it on this stand and it stays there magnetically while charging. That's very nice. I swear though, Apple looked a bit shifty during this bit at the announcement. You can charge your iPhone 16e wirelessly. They said, of course you can. And then they moved on very quickly to the next thing. It's true. You can pop your iPhone 16e down on a key charger. That's QI, key charger. So that's all true and that's fine. But every other iPhone 16 has this thing called MagSafe. MagSafe is also wireless charging, and actually there's a speed difference. MagSafe is faster than key charging. I don't really care about that because, I mean, I charge my iPhone up overnight. It's not like I'm sitting here with a stopwatch or anything. But as well as the speed, it also has these magnets that you saw. You, as well as nice for holding it up, you know for certain that you're charging, that you've positioned the phone correctly on the charger because the magnets kind of tug you into the right place. And of course, yeah, you can use it. You can use stands like mine. And actually, an iPhone with MagSafe on a stand but turned horizontally also has standby. It can be your desk clock. It can be your bedside clock. And actually, it is really clever, this. It's brilliant at dimming the screen. You know, at night in the bedroom, when you're not looking at it, it dims and brightens up when you do look at it. I mean, it's startlingly brilliant. And yet I never use it. No reason. And actually, do you know, now mentioning it to you, it's kind of put it back in my head. I think I should give it a go, especially right here at my desk. One other thing, actually, a technical difference. Apple is making quite a bit of noise about the fact that the iPhone 16e has its own modem in. Do you care? Apple used to buy in a modem from another company called Qualcomm. Now it makes its own. Okay. If you are in the States, then there is a difference. The iPhone 16e will have 5G, but not mmWave, the faster 5G that the other iPhone 16 models can cope with. If you're outside the US, as I am, well, then it makes no difference because all these years in, no iPhone outside the US copes with this faster mmWave. I mean, I like the 5G we've got, but I'd rather have the much, much faster mmWave. So, you know, let's down Apple again. One more thing, an important thing, the price. The iPhone SE's big advantage, really its one advantage, was that it was, well, I was going to say cheap, but Apple doesn't really grasp the concept of cheap. It does have a handle, though, on cheaper. The iPhone SE used to be $429 or pounds, and until this week, that made the cheapest iPhone some $370 or pounds cheaper than the next cheapest, the iPhone 16. Or actually, is my maths right for this? Put it another way, the iPhone SE was about half the price of the iPhone 16. That is no longer the case. The iPhone 16e starts at $599 or pounds, which is $200 less than the iPhone 16, which actually is $200 less dollars or pounds again than the iPhone 16 Pro models. $600 for a phone. It's hardly a casual purchase. But you can trade in most other iPhones, not all, but most, to get some money out of Apple back, like a trade-in discount thing. Apple, at least in the States, is promoting, though, that you can also have carrier offers, and they seem much more generous. For example, the one Apple shows in its listings is if you're trading in an iPhone 12 from 2020, then apparently at least some US carriers will offer you $599 for it, which means you'd be getting the new iPhone 16e for free. It is a shame that the price isn't as low as it used to be, of course it is, but this is kind of a change of focus for Apple. Instead of the cheapest iPhone possible, this is now startlingly close to the other fuller iPhones. I mean, Face ID, no home button, long battery life and action button, fast processor, and yeah, actually Apple Intelligence, including visual intelligence. The iPhone 16e, it isn't as cheap as the iPhone SE range ever was, but for what you get, it is still a bargain. Now, I tend to buy the Pro versions of the iPhone. Is it habit? Have I just got massive disposable income? Really, actually, there are some extra features and there are extra speed that tend to be worth it to me because I use it so much. I will not be trading in my iPhone 16 Pro Max for an iPhone 16e. And if I upgrade later this year, which at the moment I don't think is very likely, actually, then, well, that's the thought. We don't know if there's going to be an iPhone 17e, or that if there is, whether it'll be launched at the same time as the rest of the iPhone 17 range or several months later, like this one. If there is one, and if it is launched at the same time, I still won't be looking at it at all. I will be looking at the iPhone 17 Pro. But if you would previously have been eyeing up the iPhone 16 or the iPhone 17 when it comes, then an iPhone 16e and potentially an iPhone 17e, they're going to make your choice harder. But where the old iPhone SE was a good choice solely for its cost, the iPhone 16e is really up there with the rest of the current iPhone 16 range. That's it for this edition of 58 Keys. Thank you very much for watching. Now take care of yourself, hey, write more, and I'll see you soon.